Hi, I'm Catherine Parker with the Association of Strategic Alliance Professionals, Silicon Valley chapter, and we're here today with Steve White of IDC. Steve is the Research Director of the Alliances practice at IDC. IDC has recently released the 2013 Top 10 Predictions Reports, and we'll be talking with Steve today about some of the implications for the trends on the alliances profession and the business. Steve, will companies that are good at alliances have an advantage in leveraging these trends?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. It's, if you're able to kind of view alliances and structure them effectively at all levels, as the market's moving, you should be able to have a step ahead of other folks. Although the thing you have to bear in mind is that a lot of these markets are moving very, very fast. So old-fashioned, traditional alliance structures may not keep up to speed with some of the changes that are happening in the market today.
So that kind of leads into the next question.
Mm-hmm.
How about alliance professional skills? What kinds of skills need to be emphasized now to foster this rapid change and these kind of successes?
Yeah, so we had these discussions around market-making skills, which sounds easy, but it's not so easy to actually make happen within these big companies. So generally alliances tend to be downhill in a business, so strategy is set higher and alliances kind of deliver against some of that strategy. Alliances really need to be kind of moving up and facilitating some of those conversations, those market-making conversations. I do strongly believe, though, it's not just an alliance's role, though. You've got to be working with the technical people in your business, the product people, and any other biz dev, depending on the structure of your business. It's a combination of people, including alliances. Alliance needs to kind of facilitate that, I think.
So you've been looking across many companies and how they do structure their organizations to foster alliance success. What do you think the characteristics are going to be of the successful organization that is able to leverage the trends through alliance partnerships?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think the ones who are being successful today are able to measure what they're doing more effectively than others. One of the things around alliances is that there's not often a direct revenue attached to it. There's an influenced or a co-sell revenue. The companies who are showing more success, I think, have better systems in place to measure that. That's to help them internally more than anything. I mean, they've got to show value internally. I think the other thing they need to have is this agility. So when we talked around market making, those folks who are in these newer expanding markets need to have less onerous kind of revenue-related goals on them. They need to be empowered to go out and create things. So you need to have this balance between those two things. And then, as those newer kind of relationships come on board and become the bigger ones, yeah, absolutely, you can structure them more effectively, but there needs to be less rigidity around those newer relationships, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. Market making is back. So in order to, because we had that 20 years ago here in Silicon Valley.
Absolutely.
So in order to actually deploy these things organizationally, are there new tools, are there new practices that could be used to foster better collaboration in alliance partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the technologies that are actually proliferating in the market now, the more kind of social technologies, those should definitely be used. The thing that I've found in speaking to most of the big vendors is they seem to be using social type and community type technologies to customers, but less with partners at the moment. So there's a few recently that I've spoken to who are beginning to utilize it, but I think there's more of a role to play there for sure.
So I just want to add in a question then. What do you think the barrier is to those who haven't been able to use it yet with partners?
It's
barriers. Some of the barriers. What are some of the barriers?
I think probably the barriers are it's just receptiveness. I mean, if you think about alliances in general, they tend to be bigger players having a relationship with each other. The perception around social is it's more of a kind of a volume play. So there is a role to play when you've got teams working together to connect them socially. So I know that SAS Institute, for example, have just started a social portal for their partners. Now, again, good principle. As I said to Kathy, who's running it, it'd be interesting to see the usage numbers. Because, again, I don't think in alliances people are just used to doing that. And, you know, are you in a safe place? And we talked a lot about LinkedIn groups and getting activity on those LinkedIn groups. So we have a LinkedIn group for our alliances folks. It's very inactive. So it's lots of people are registered, but there's no activity. So there's definitely something missing there.
That's a whole other video. So last question that we planned for today in any way. What are your thoughts on ways that IDC could help foster acceleration of the, you know, this market making and meeting
Yeah.
and greeting that needs to go on?
So I think that's a fairly straightforward one for us in that IDC is known for our numbers. So we are very strong on forecasting markets, geographies, sub-markets, and those kind of things. So I think the future data that we have available will help people to plan ahead, and I think that should be a great asset when you're making a strategy, when you're looking to kind of move towards these market-making activities. You don't just guess then. You've got some data behind those conversations, which should kind of help you jump some stages along the way.
Mm-hmm. What about community building? Can you help there?
Community building, yeah, well...
Your ideas.
Yeah, I think on the community side, I think this is one of the challenges of how complex the market is. So we've actually had lots of conversations around partners conglomerating around making stuff work together. Sounds great, lovely on paper, very, very, very hard to do. So even with just two partners, it's actually very, very hard to do. I think thoughts in terms of making that work, I think it has to start with customer needs. In my view, everything starts with customer needs. Now, the data, again, that we monitor, it's revenue, so it's what customers are buying. So interestingly enough, I think you can probably start to use the data to drive groups of people who want to work together, and we could act as someone in the middle who kind of brings that together and says, you and you seem to be interested. Those multi-party partnerships are really, really hard to manage. So
even for IDC.
Yeah, we could act as a facilitator, but honestly, making it happen is going to be a hard thing to do. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So we still have our challenges ahead.
For sure.
We would like to thank very much Steve White for his time today, and I hope you'll tune in again shortly.